Welcome to Satan Hunter Radio. My name is Brian White, and this is Monday, August 7th, 2017. I hope you've had a awesome Monday. I know this was going to be a weekly program, but as I was meditating with Jesus on what to do, what he wanted me to do, it has turned into a daily thing for me. The other thing is that, I have a lot of information to get out. I have a pretty decent sized card deck, and I didn't end up with the same card deck that I thought I would end up with, as I would, check in with Jesus on exactly what he wanted me to get out there. What did he want me to say? So I'm just going to wing it, and hopefully you'll forgive me for not having my radio legs yet. This is only my second transmission. You can reach me at www.satanhunter.com, YouTube at Satan Hunter, Facebook Brian White 11, anonymous tip hotline 361-215-2496, 361-215-2496. This hotline is for anyone out there who is listening to this transmission, who is a child, a spouse, or an elderly person who is being treated in a way that they are not comfortable with, who is anticipating being treated in a way that should not be treated, or they have been treated in the past in any way that they should not be treated. I want you to call me right now, and Jesus, me, and you are going to figure it out. Also, if you know of any satanic ritual abuse or satanic ritual activity going on, please call the anonymous tip hotline. So, my friends and students and teachers are probably wondering why I'm calling myself the Satan Hunter. I didn't expect this part of my life to call myself the Satan Hunter. For the last 10 years or so, for the last decade or more, I've been involved with what I would call the fluffy and puffy theology of everything. I grew up in the church, real quickly, just to explain. I grew up in the church. I had the most godly parents one could ever imagine. My mom is a saint. My father, not so much a saint, but he needed my mom, and we both needed my mother, and she is just incredible. My brother, not a malicious bone in his body, another saintly, godly person. Both grandparents, my grandfather was a Southern Baptist minister. My grandmother played the piano in church. My Aunt Melba, my Aunt Bonnie, my cousin Karen, my Uncle Bob, just incredibly incredible, godly people, my Aunt Linda. And you might say that I was literally smothered and covered in godliness and godly parents. And if it wasn't for my mom, she'd be visiting me in prison. That's pretty much how it would have happened. So as I got older, Scripture was pointing out to me, how was I going to follow Christ? How was I going to serve Jesus? I had been reading my Bible since I was 8 years old. I accepted Christ when I was 8 years old. And what stood out for me was, it's either witness to other people about Jesus, cast out demons, or healing. Well, I am not a salesman, and I can't sell a hot dog in New York City. When I was a kid, I was picked on, bullied, bossed around nonstop, and I just didn't want to tell people what to do or how to live. I just couldn't do it. And it just manifested in that way. And even today, I can't even have a dog because I don't treat the dog like a dog needs to be treated. I treat it like a human, and it just takes over the entire house. I tried it 3 times. So I went, demon possession wasn't really something that was popular. So I went into healing, and unfortunately, you can't go down to your local church and talk to your pastor and say, teach me how to heal. So I asked Jesus to put in my path the most credible, incredible teachers on healing that were outside of the Christian church. And every step of the way, that's what he did. I have compiled that whole experience into a book called Expectations and Meaning. It's at lulu.com, it's at amazon.com, or you can just click the link below, and I have included it for free as an eBook. So basically, as it turned out, I just went into all this inner work on myself. Now, I'm not talking about, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about salvation. I'm talking about inner healing work that is present at the moment. My standing with God is through Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone. But I had a lot of inner work to do, which is chronicled in my book. So towards the end of this, and what happens is some things come into focus, things go out of focus. This part of my life was ending, and it was ending for a while. And all I can tell you towards the end, or at least the end of that stage, was that I felt, without a doubt, and I can tune into it very easily, a oneness with everyone and everything. And then also there was a feeling of no more or no less important than anyone or anything else. That comes and goes based upon the static. If I'm out in the wilderness, it's easier. If I'm in the city, it's a little bit harder. So I'm just saying that that's what it kind of accumulated into after all those years of this inner work. If I can make a movie reference to this, it's basically two movies. It's the Natalie Portman character in V for Vendetta. She has that moment in that movie, and I had that too. The other movie reference would be Neo from The Matrix. I had that moment too. Beyond that, I can explain to you privately what's all that has happened. But basically, most of us who have experienced this, we pretty much drop out of society altogether. We have a attraction to this oneness with everyone and everything, and this feeling of nothing more and nothing less important than anyone or anything, and it becomes an attraction. We get attracted to it. Now, God does not want me to do this. God has put in my path other things that I need to do, and pretty much at the end of the day, God gets what God wants out of me. So one of the things I want to make clear is that I am not telling you these things from the standpoint of a salesperson or trying to convince you of anything. I am not a salesperson. My mother, and all mothers are correct, used to tell me, if I told you the clouds were white, you tell me the clouds were black. And that's what I did. And she would then say to me, as she said many times, boy, you are really something else. And I used to reply back, what's the something else? She goes, I don't know, but you're something else. Well, that something else is the rebel. And while I am not a salesman, I am the rebel. I am the spirit of a rebel. And after 40 years of doing it, I've gotten better. And right now, the way I'm feeling, I think the way I'm feeling, Johnny Cash kind of put it perfectly when he started wearing black. And Johnny Cash said in that song, The Man in Black, I wear black as a symbol of rebellion against a stagnant status quo, against our hypocritical houses of God, against people whose minds are closed to other ideas, for the poor and the beaten down, for the prisoner who has long paid for his crime, for those who never read or listen to the words that Jesus said, for the sick and the lonely, for the lives that could have been, for the thousands who have died believing that the Lord was on their side. I'd love to wear a rainbow every day and tell the world that everything's okay. But I'll try to carry off a little darkness on my back till things are brighter. I'm the man in black. And I think that kind of fits me to the way I'm feeling right now. And there is a sense of urgency that Jesus is compelling me to tell everybody. We have we have gotten to a place to where there are 1,000 witches casting spells upon my president, and a metaphysical store in every single town in America, and what was once considered rebellion is now mainstream. So in the spirit of that rebel, in the spirit of that rebel, I am telling you, I am sounding the alarm that we need to stop. We just need to stop. And this really is the new rebel. So what do I mean by now and why we have to reverse course? Well, here is something that we can look at by the numbers for 2017. In 2017, we are 70 years from the rebirth of Israel, 70 years from the Dead Sea Scrolls, 70 years from the Jubilee since Canaan, 70 years Jubilee since Exodus. We're at 5777 on the Jewish calendar. 5 is grace, 7 is completion. We are at 7/17/17, where the Jews prayed on the Temple Mount for the first time since 1967, which is also on the same day as Spider-Man Homecoming. And there is a video on that symbolism linked in my stuff. We're at the 40 Jubilee since Christ's death. We're at 100 years for the Fatima prophecy. We're at 100 years at the Balfour Declaration when Israel was created. We are at Trump's first day in office. He was 70 years old, 7 months and 7 days. He won the election with 77 electoral votes. Trump bought 666 Fifth Avenue for $1.8 billion, or 3 sixes, 666. And the distance between Trump Chicago and Trump New York City is 795.66, or 33. And the big one of all is September 23rd, 2017, Revelation 12. Now, there's plenty of videos that I've linked up in case you want to get into that. But Jesus wants me to get into something else. And what it is that in 2017, we have the convergence of two very big design plans for the earth. And this may go beyond 2017, but I'm just telling you that 2017 is here and this is what's happening. It could be 2018, 2019, 2020. But we definitely, absolutely have the convergence of two plans that are coming to a head, that are coming to a quickening. And one plan, the failure is certain. It is not of God, and it has not changed since the Garden of Eden. It is the same plan. There's another one which is God's plan, where failure is absolutely impossible. And this is God restoring fellowship with Him on the planet. On the planet. Now, I'm just going to go into two verses that we can just look at. And the biggest one is Matthew 24:24. Jesus said, false Christ and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. Well, guess what? We're at the 70th anniversary of Roswell. And who is going to show us signs and wonders. Who has the technology to show us signs and wonders? You know, we thought about this in the past. I read this when I was 8 years old, and I was like, what the heck is going on? But now, it's plain as day. We can see it. We can see that we're being set up for an alien to show signs and wonders in the sky. And this has been confirmed by Wernher von Braun, who is the father of NASA. He was part of Operation Blue Clip, where we took a bunch of Nazis from World War II and we put them to work for our country. His secretary, Carol Rosen, and you'll find her on YouTube as well, plus a document by Freemason Albert Pike, said that Wernher von Braun had told her that after the terrorist war, it's going to be a fake alien invasion. And he told her this back in the 60s, probably maybe early 70s, maybe even mid 60s. After the terrorist war has been exhausted, after we're tired of it, after it's just been milked for everything it is, which we are at right now. ISIS and Afghanistan, they are all on the run. They're all on the decline. Trump is stopping it. And once that's done, it's going to be aliens. It's going to be the fake alien invasion. To further this point, the History Channel, or His Story Channel, meaning that everything they put on there, they try to tell us is real. We have now 13 seasons and entire day marathons of Ancient Aliens. Now, I've watched this. I mean, I have to admit, I've watched all 13 seasons. Everything. And I'm telling you, everything is based upon an alien. The Ark of the Covenant, alien. God, alien. Jesus, alien. Moses, alien. Everything's alien. So, that's what's being pumped into our heads on a massive, massive scale. The other thing is that NASA, which stands for Never a Straight Answer, has non-stop press releases about alien planets, alien habitation. There could be aliens here. There could be aliens there. We think that 1% of the universe is populated with aliens. And the other thing that they came public with the other day was they're hiring a protection officer for the Earth. So again, propaganda, it's being thrown down our throats, being pumped into our heads, and they're setting us up. And the third one, which is my personal favorite, is the Vatican, and I don't know how everyone has not heard this yet, but the Vatican has a telescope that's called Lucifer, and it's in Arizona, and it's trying to detect something that's headed our way, because supposedly they want to know first before we do. Okay, so if that wasn't enough to convince you that something's going on, let's look at something else what Jesus says. But as in the days of Noah were, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man be. So what was going on in Noah's day? The Nephilim, Genesis 6. aliens, demons, whatever you want to call them. Population explosion. Evil explosion. Bad equals good, good equals bad. Filled with violence. And the flesh corrupted their way. And you might just say it's the natural way. And also no thought of judgment. They did not think that God was going to judge them at all. That God just kind of like wound up the clock and just let it keep ticking. Jesus goes on and continues in other places where he says, they would be lovers of themselves, money, boastful, proud, no self-control, lovers of pleasure, unforgiving, abusive, ungrateful, disobedient to parents. I think we probably have fulfilled all those items. So if that's not enough, Monday, August 7th, 2017, Drudge Report. We now have L'Oreal male cosmetics. We now have little girl Victoria's Secret shows. We now have villages where girls are turned into boys and they grow genitals. And we also have trans day camp for preschoolers. Now, I am not sure how much further God is going to allow this to go. So, as I was conversing with Jesus this morning and talking about this, it was like, what can I say that hasn't already been said? I don't want to be a parrot. I don't want to just be a parrot and tell people what they've heard from everyone else because they just tune it out. I can't be a parrot. I don't want to be a parrot. And this is called parroting. You hear something from someone else, and then you do the same thing and you tell someone else as well. And you think that somehow by osmosis everyone's going to figure it out. Well, what happened was God led me to this, and Jesus led me to this, and this is what humanity's next steps are. We're headed towards a culturally acceptable or a subculture of cannibalism. We are headed towards a culturally acceptable, non-arrest culture of pedophilia. And we are headed towards more open satanic rituals. And all you have to do is look at the Super Bowls. Halftime at the Super Bowl is Satan time. Which then Jesus led me to Matthew 18:6, where Jesus said, "Whosoever shall offend one of these little ones, children, which believe in me, it would be better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he drowned in the depth of the sea." Pretty strong words. Now, I asked Jesus, I said, look, I need something else. I need something stronger than that. Give me something really, really relative. Really, really relative to bring this bring this message really home. And this is what I got. You have the offender. Well, that offender doesn't operate by themselves. That offender was enabled by the voter for the policies. That offender could have been enabled by the parents. That offender could be enabled by an appointed official. That offender could be enabled by neighbors. That offender could have been enabled by an elected official. That offender could have been enabled by a judge. That offender could be enabled by a lobbyist. That offender could have been enabled by law enforcement. And that offender could have been enabled by a military soldier. Now, if you think that babies in a womb do not count as an offense to children, you may have a surprise headed towards you. You may be surprised. You very well may be surprised. And I know that there are people out there right now that are listening to this, and Jesus is convicting your heart because you know that you have enabled an offender of children in some kind of way. And I can feel it. I can feel the heartbreak of the ones that know that they did something wrong and they don't know how to get rid of it. They don't know how to make themselves right with God. You may be feeling a burning sensation in your heart. Some people need that burning sensation, that physical burning sensation, so that God gets your attention. How much longer is God going to hold back from his judgment? Because he has to judge. He said he was going to judge, and he has to. You may not feel anything, but God is stirring your heart right now. I can feel it. I can feel it, and there are a lot of you. There are a lot of you. Jesus has an answer for you. Jesus has an answer for you. John 3:16, Jesus said, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever," and you're that whoever, "believes in him should not perish and have everlasting life." He desires to have fellowship with you no matter what you've done. He desires this fellowship with you. And it may sound like a contradiction, but it's not. And through the work of the cross, Jesus completes that fellowship with you. And I know that there are ones out there that are listening to this and they can feel it. They don't feel right with God. They don't. they don't feel right with God, and God is convicting them right now. God is stirring your heart. And I just ask that you pray with me right now. And you just tell God that you love him, that you acknowledge him as your creator, and that you repent from what you've done, and that you accept his solution of Jesus on the cross. You accept his blood as sacrifice for your sins. And you believe on Jesus for your salvation. You cannot work for your salvation. Jesus gives it to you. It's a gift. It's a priceless gift that we all have access to. And all you have to do is believe. All you have to do is invite Jesus into that heart that he is stirring right now. Right now. And he doesn't want you to continue the way that you are. He desires to have fellowship with you. And I pray that you have prayed this prayer. And I hope that you will contact me, and I will get you more information on how to begin your walk with Jesus. Thank you for listening.